Hello everyone, this is Bob and Threadbare, and welcome back to The Longest Journey.
Oh, God. Headache. I didn't really have that much to drink, did I? No. But I did travel through a shift into a parallel universe, which would explain this weird compulsion to curl up into a fetal position and go back to sleep. Not that I'm particularly looking forward to it, but I guess I have to go find that Warren guy Cortez told me about down on Hope Street. And hey, like that's not enough. I have to avoid bumping into Zach today. He's probably royally pissed that I stood him up, and Zach's very good at being pissed.
I believe if I had chosen the other path, Zach, the date would have ended with April throwing her drink in Zach's face and storming off. Hence, no difference in the timeline. Oh joy, there he is.
So you thought you could stand me up and get away with it, bitch?
I'm sorry. What did you call me?
We have a date and then you don't show? Leave me looking like a sad prick all night in front of my friends?
I couldn't go, Zach. Get over it.
I don't fucking care. You'll regret fucking with me, bitch. I can promise you that.
It's not gonna matter.
I'd call you a bastard if I didn't think you'd take it as a compliment.
If I wasn't such a fucking nice guy, I'd smash your fucking face in, bitch. You're gonna be so fucking sorry you ever fucked with me, April fucking Ryan.
Nice guy, huh? Great judge of character, huh?
That's Zach's room. I've never been in there, and I pray.
Let's get out of here.
Nobody home.
Yeah, he's probably at the bar again. But like I said, let's get out of here. Only Zach is in the apartment right now. Boarding home. Whatever you'd call this place. Speaking of which, though, maybe we should stop by the cafe first. See if there's anyone around, someone to talk to. Oh yeah, hey, there's Charlie.
I hate to say it, but I don't have time to talk to Charlie right now.
I guess that doesn't count then. Nobody in the back either, so I guess it's straight on to business. Oh, but I don't think I've clicked on that before.
Where it goes, nobody knows.
I mean, not that it's really all that special, Yeah, I think there won't be anybody at the college either. This is like a weekend right now. So like I said, straight on to business.
Sweet old ladies just ain't what they used to be.
Alright, what have we got for destinations? Looks like the lower left one here is new. Yeah, yep, that's Hope Street.
She's gone. The boss man. From his uniform, I'd say he's one of the West Side Kings. They got recruitment posters all over town. Looks like he knows how to use that steel pipe. I think he's in trouble.
Yeah, I was going to ask how April knew about one of the local gangs like that.
Gas or water mains, perhaps. Or, sewer pipes. That would explain the smell. It's kind of unsettling to be so aware of myself all the time.
I mean, she hasn't been in town for a year yet. But if they've got recruitment posters everywhere, I guess that explains that.
I wonder how they light those candles. Do they have ladders? Or jetpacks? That's a funky idea. Priests with rockets on their backs. That would give a whole new dimension to evening services.
They're probably just flickering LEDs.
Pretty. And considering the neighborhood, it's a miracle that it's still intact. Maybe it's bulletproof stained glass designed for inner-city cathedrals.
Looks like we can head over to the confessionals, but nothing else. So that's where we're going.
It's a baby angel. A cherub? He's got a red robe wrapped around his posterior, and he looks to be in a hurry. I can't remember reading about this particular incident in the Bible. Maybe it was in the sequel? Nah. That came out only 5 years ago, and this wall painting looks a lot older than that.
Maybe it was in the Apocrypha, the unofficial sequel.
It's a priest. It's the confessional.
Well, I guess that's who we're talking to then.
Good morning. I'm Father Raoul. You're not a Hope Street regular, are you? I haven't seen you here before.
I don't visit the neighborhood very often, no.
And why should you? It's not a very nice place. This cathedral is all there's left of the hope in Hope Street.
I'm sorry to hear that, Father.
So am I. But we cope. We cope. How may I be of assistance?
What's wrong with your neck?
Do people still go to church?
Yes, some do. Some do. Religion is pretty resilient.
Religion, sure. But there's so many new religions, and people tend to abandon the old ones, don't they?
They'll be back. The Voltex and the Manus of the world offer only a fleeting chance of material happiness. What they cannot offer is spiritual enlightenment.
So you're not worried about the competition?
We have over 2,000 years of experience and tradition to build on. I don't see us just rolling over on our backs and giving up. No.
Do you know a boy named Warren Hughes?
As a matter of fact, I do. The Hugheses were regulars before they traveled to the colonies. Poor Warren was left an orphan by his family. I haven't seen him for years.
Where does Warren live?
I'm not sure he lives anywhere. But he does belong to a Hope Street gang, the Razorblades, I believe. They seem to congregate just down the street in Building 87. Be careful, though. Although they're far from the worst gang around here, they're not a particularly friendly lot, and they don't care for strangers.
I can take care of myself.
I don't doubt that. Still, be careful.
Did he say conjugate?
Where did you say I could...
Your best bet would be Building 87 just down the street.
Thank you, Father.
Please come by again if you're ever in the neighborhood.
Alright, just got a new page in the diary here. Which for some reason isn't automatically the next page. Here we are. Not much to it, of course.
It's been more than 2 years since my last confession, but... no. I'm not in a mood to be counting beads right now, and with my list of, shortcomings, I'll be counting beads for a very long time.
Yeah, April would be Catholic, wouldn't she? She's got a very thorough Irish heritage.
87.
And here we are. Only one person in here.
It's out of order. I think I'll just take the stairs. It's a boy. Looks to be about 15 or so. Can I talk to you for a minute? You know where I can find a kid named Warren Hughes?
Who's asking?
I am.
Warren Hughes. Never heard of him.
What's your name?
What's yours?
April Ryan.
Lucky you.
Alright, well, I guess you can't help me.
Nope. Nobody can.
What do you mean?
A nice, pretty girl like you in a neighborhood like this, asking all the wrong questions. You're heading for some serious trouble, you know.
I can take care of myself.
Mm-hmm. Sure you can. The thing is, there are 4 guys waiting downstairs for you to come back out, and they can take care of themselves real good.
I'm not looking for trouble.
Trouble found you, girl.
I don't have any money.
You think I want your money? Shit, you can keep your damn money. Just because I live in the projects don't mean I'm a thief, you know?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean...
Of course not. You people never do.
What do you want from me?
I should have asked you the same question. Except I don't care. You should have thought twice before coming after me.
After you? I didn't come... So you're Warren?
What, like you didn't know?
No. Cortez told me your name, where to find you, but...
Hold on. Cortez? Old Spanish talking dude. Real crazy in the head?
That's a fair description, yeah.
Shit. You're not a cop. Social services? Corporate?
No, I'm a friend of Cortez. He said to look you up.
I haven't seen Cortez in a while. Not since before. So what does Senior Cortez want with me?
We need some help.
What kind of help? Look, I gotta stay incognito most of the time now that corporates and cops are stepping up their search for us. I can't go risking my ass for nobody. Not even Cortez.
That's all right. I just need some information on a group called the Vanguard and their leader, Jacob McAllen.
Oh, sorry. Never heard of those guys.
You wouldn't have. They keep to themselves, and they got some kind of cover operation going, but I don't know what it is, and...
Need to find out? Alright, here's the thing. I got a friend who might be able to help you out.
Great!
Hold on. Before I use up my favors with him, I need you to do me a favor in return. Probably even help yourself out at the same time.
Fair enough. What do I have to do?
Easy. Break into the Newport Police Department computer archives. Get me some information on my family. Destroy my criminal record, and get the hell out of there. Preferably alive.
Yeah, easy.
You want me to risk my life for a personal favor?
If you don't do this for me, I won't help you out. Besides, there's probably some information on the... Vanguards, was it? In the archives. And that information will be valuable to my friend if he's gonna help you out.
Nothing else to do. No other leads.
I'll do it.
Smart decision. So here's the thing. My dad doped out on raps and seduced by commercials. Sold out our whole family to the shiny happy colonization program for a lifetime supply of the big R. The Rapture. He neglected to ask his lovely wife and children, and the corporates didn't care. One day they came to pick up my mom, my sister, and me. I got away though. Snuck out the window. I spent the next 2 weeks in a dumpster.
And your family?
That's just it. I don't know. Off to the colonies, of course, but which one? I don't know. Sometimes they split up families too. You know, they don't tell you that in their ads. I don't give a shit about my dad, and my mom, she's tough. She can take care of herself, but I want my sister back. We were real tight. I'm not gonna let him use her in the mines and factories out there.
So, you want me to find out where they took your sister?
That's it. You're catching on. You do that for me, and delete my criminal record at the same time to get them damn corporates off my ass. I'll give you all the help you need.
Where's the police station?
Take the subway to Metro West. You'll come out on what they call Cop Street. You'll see the NPD headquarters down the block. You can't miss it.
I'd better get going.
Be cool, eh?
Not one more word about those 4 guys that are supposedly downstairs. I imagine that was just a bluff, really. Yeah, it's on Sunday. That's what day it is. Alright, got a new destination, and the guy in the back looks kind of like the old lady. Let's see here. Guess it's Metro West we're headed to now.
It's your garden variety robotic roadblock. You see them all over this pothole-infested town. There's a small control panel on it. The display reads 3018. Another unfortunate victim of the Anglo-Pacific Wars of the 90s.
Huh.
It's a garbage container, and it's mostly empty, save for a couple of sticky old newspapers and bottles.
Okay, can I interact with it? Apparently I can climb in.
So gross. Me in my favorite shirt. Hey, is that a fur mitten? Ah, no, it's a dead rat. I'm not gonna check out that other mitten in the corner. I think it just moved. How utterly pointless is this? And I'm starting to reek a little of odor crap, too.
Yeah, I'll say. Didn't expect her to actually climb inside without a purpose yet. I mean, yeah, obviously there's a point later, but...
I do all my grocery shopping at T-Rex. Not that their food is particularly good, nor their prices particularly low. I just love their ads. They're pretty cool. Especially the one where they built an actual-sized robot dinosaur and sent it out to mangle a competing chain of grocery stores. For real. I don't know if anybody got hurt, but man, that campaign kicked ass.
Okay.
It says Threadbare Lane, MCW, and the street ID number is 3018.
Ooh. That's a reference to Loom. Same as my internet handle.
It says Calavera Crossing MCW, and the street ID number is 0092.
Oh, and that's a call out to Grim Fandango. But now that we have two numbers, maybe we can use one on this roadblock here.
Perhaps if I try entering the idea of the intersecting street, the roadblock will move.
Surprised there's no sort of security lock on this thing. I mean, if it doesn't, this sort of thing must happen all the time. And once we get to the... Oh, this is new.
This is Lucinda Carlisle reporting live from just outside the Metro Precinct Police Station, and I bring you today a senseless and tragic display of technology gone wrong. In the carnage you see behind me, medical drones are digging through the rubble of a crashed shuttle for the remains of over 100 people who lost their lives today in an accident that could and should have been prevented. Only hours ago, a Brave New World Airlines shuttle carrying starry-eyed colonists to the Metro Tower experienced an engine failure and came roaring down on this street without warning, crushing 3 cars and burying 9 innocent pedestrians and 2 would-be carjackers. The cause of this human tragedy? As of yet, there is no official report. We can only speculate, and speculate we will. Was the pilot drunk? Was he hopped up on Amethyst? Was someone aboard carrying a bomb? Did the manufacturers of the shuttle, Monster Limited, skimp on a part and import it from a bootleg factory in Germany? The truth could be any or all of the above. But whoever is responsible, and whatever the punishment, it won't bring any of those bloodied, mangled corpses to life. It won't bring Teresa Roseman, mother of 3, back to her husband, Marty. That loss is forever, and a huge cash settlement can only ease the pain. It can never remove it altogether. Only expensive brain surgery or personality modification through proprietary drugs can do that. The exact death count is still under wraps, and work will continue throughout the day to identify the thousands of body parts that are being picked one by one from the twisted wreckage of BMWA Shuttle 709. What repercussions will this accident have on our city? Probably none. You fly a shuttle, you take your chances. This is Lucinda Carlisle, reporting live for the Metro Channel Action News. Back to you, Lisa and Dan.
Mission 5.
Are we clear? How did I do? Uh-huh. And what are the ratings? 5 million? That's it? 5 million? Jesus, we've lost out to reruns of Gillian's Island? What the fuck, Gregory? Why the hell did you... Yeah. Don't give me any of that shit. You were the one who said this would broaden my audience. I should have stuck with the game shows. Jesus!
Huh. At least they're still paying out cash settlements to survivors.
It's a police officer. He's guarding the wreckage. It's a high-voltage laser perimeter fence. The color indicates that they're using military-grade lasers.
Well, if they're military grade, then... well, what's the point of having lesser grades?
If I'm not completely mistaken, and if I remember my tech classes correctly, that's an anti-gravity control unit. It looks fully intact.
Move along. There is nothing to see here.
Except for that crashed hovercraft.
Nah. You see those everywhere these days.
Sorry?
Dime a dozen.
Crashed hovercraft are a dime a dozen?
15 a week, ma'am. At the very least. In this city alone.
But they say it's the safest mode of transportation available.
Statistically, yes. Unless you're aboard one of the buggers. Then your chance of survival drops drastically.
What?
Mission 5.
They're the safest mode of transportation, if you stay on the ground. The chances of being hit by one going down are relatively low.
Thanks for ruining my trust in modern technology.
We're here to protect and serve.
Isn't it the other way around?
Just keep it moving, ma'am. Nothing to see here.
Except for the escaped convict right behind you.
I'm on special duty today, ma'am. So that escaped convict will have to take care of himself. After all, who'd guard this perimeter in my absence?
Me? I'll be good.
That was a rhetorical question, ma'am. You are not qualified. Now, move along. Nothing to see here.
Except for you, officer.
Eh? Me?
I always did love a man in a uniform.
Mission 5.
Sorry, ma'am, but I'm gay. Now, move along. Nothing to see here.
Except...
I won't tell you again, so move along. There is absolutely nothing to see here. Nothing. Jeez, don't you people have anything better to do?
Are you feeling all right, officer?
Thank you, ma'am. I'm fine. All the dust from the debris is just choking me up.
Sounds like he needs a drink.
It's a police officer.
I think that obvious attempt at flirtation probably wouldn't have worked even if he was of the correct orientation.
It's a police officer. He's guarding the entrance. Hey! How do I get into the station?
That is the question, is it not?
Pardon?
To get in or not to get in? That is the question.
Good grief, more weirdos.
Oh, I'm not a weirdo. I'm an actor.
No offense, but isn't that an oxymoron?
Lady, you are the cruelest she alive.
So this is new.
Are you an actor or a cop?
Both, darling, both. I am an actor, but I will portray an officer of the law in my next motion picture. It's called Mad Cop 2. I play the Mad Cop's friend, the somewhat ticked-off cop.
I think I saw the first one. It stunk.
I agree. But this one has a certain, je ne sais quoi, flair that the original lacked.
You mean more violence, more sex, less plot?
That's it.
So you're doing research for your next role?
Indeed, my fair maiden, I am. I have been assigned to a squad to capture the essence of Her Majesty's honorable service.
And what squad would that be?
Vice.
Her Majesty's service? What?
Why were you parading back and forth like that?
I am practicing the fine art of policing.
It doesn't look like policing. It looks like acting.
Bollocks! And I thought I was making progress.
Maybe if you tried being a little less rigid?
Yeah, but it's this bloody suit. It makes everyone move the same way. I'm not able to release the character.
How do I get into the station?
You don't. Not today.
But I need to get in. What if there's been a crime?
Good point. I guess you need to report it via one of the many kiosks installed throughout the city, or by contacting an officer of the law.
Like yourself?
I am but a humble servant of Her Majesty, and I'm actually assigned to Vice, so don't bother.
Any chance you'll let me through?
Shower me with sweet forgiveness, Princess, but unfortunately, I cannot. The doors ain't working.
The doors aren't working?
They're not. Good Lord, I must report this immediately, after I'm done with my policing exercise.
Did you say the doors weren't working?
Ah, correct. The only things getting in and out of the station today are police officers, prisoners, and garbage.
Aren't they all pretty much one and the same thing?
Cutting words from a wench's barbed mouth?
What did you call me?
Sweet princess.
That's more like it.
Hey, you just called him garbage.
How are you able to bring garbage out and prisoners in when the doors are broken?
These doors don't work, but the gate downstairs does. Of course, you can only get through that inside of a vehicle. The security measures are quite extreme.
Like how extreme?
Can you say radiation poisoning?
Thanks, and good luck.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. Farewell, princess. Till we meet again, farewell.
Newport Police Department. It's a holographic sign.
Okay then. Can't seem to click on anything down there, but we do know that garbage trucks go in. Because for some reason the garbage handling is in the same building as the police station. But yeah, now you know why we need to get into this garbage bin. And the reason we needed to move that barrier is so that a garbage collection vehicle would be able to pass through and collect the garbage from inside. With the barrier in a different place, it would have just passed this by.
Keep it close to yourself.
Alright, first, let me take care of some business. You may have noticed that the last two movie reviews have come out a week late, and they've used still images instead of video. Well, after getting my first copyright strike on the first one and a flat rejection on my fair use claim for the second, I've decided it's safer and more efficient to switch back to stills for the foreseeable future. Luckily, though, that's not going to be an issue for this review. Today, I'll be taking a look at a real doorstopper of a fantasy novel, recommended by patron Eugenio Triana. The book is called The Name of the Wind, published by Patrick Rothfuss in 2007. About the author. Patrick Rothfuss was born in 1973 in Madison, Wisconsin. He had a generally uninteresting childhood, and when he went to college to get a bachelor's in English, he only went a few counties north to the University of Wisconsin campus in Stevens Point. He did go all the way to Washington State to get his master's degree, however. Throughout his time at college, and throughout another 5 years or so teaching part-time at Stevens Point, Rothfuss was writing what he liked to call the book. He tried very hard to get a publishing deal going for the book for many of those years, but he had no luck until 2002. That was the year he entered a chapter of the book in a short story competition, and when he won, publishers and literary agents started talking to him. By this point, the book was quite simply enormous, and so Rothfuss agreed to the publisher's request to break it into a trilogy. For reference, my paperback copy of the first book in this trilogy is over 700 pages long. I suppose because of this chopping up, he was able to publish The Name of the Wind just 1 year later, in 2007. The second installment of the Kingkiller Chronicles, The Wise Man's Fear, came out 4 years later, in 2011, and we're still waiting for the third book. However, he's written other works in the meantime, including The Slow Regard of Silent Things, a novella that follows a side character from the Kingkiller Chronicles, and The Adventures of the Princess and Mr. Whiffle, a young adult book with a completely unrelated story. Oh, and there's something else that's interesting about him, at least if you watch any online Dungeons & Dragons games. Patrick Rothfuss is a regular player for Penny Arcade's Acquisitions Incorporated game, and he's guest starred on the Acquisitions Inc. C-Team stream and on Geek and Sundry's Critical Role. Rothfuss is the guy with the curly hair and a really long beard. Anyway, that's about all I could dig up about the guy. That means it's time to move on to the story. The book starts out by spending a few chapters on its framing device. There's a quiet town where several locals like to have drinks at the inn, drinks served by the red-headed innkeeper named Coat, or his assistant, Bast. But one day, one of them gets attacked by a strange metallic spider monster, and only kills it by chance. It burns when touched by cold iron, and so the locals figure it must be a demon. Meanwhile, a man known as Chronicler gets robbed by some army deserters. Later on, he gets attacked by more of those spider demons and rescued by Coat, who seems to know what they really are. Chronicler ends up at his inn the day after, and he confronts Coat. His real name must be Kvothe, a famous hero. Kvothe at first demands that Chronicler leave, but eventually the writer talks him into presenting a true account of his history. Kvothe tells him that it will take 3 days to present his full story, and Chronicler is not to change a single word. And with those terms in place, the main story begins. Kvothe was born a member of the Edema Rue, an ethnic group of traveling performers who are not also thieves and con artists despite their reputation. In fact, Kvothe's troupe is sponsored by a wealthy baron, so they can operate in just about any town they want. Kvothe himself is a born genius, and he learns at an incredible pace. Thus, when he sees a traveling wizard named Abinthy use real magic to scare off some superstitious locals, Kvothe talks him into joining the troupe as a special effects engineer, and into teaching him everything he knows. This includes basic science like physics, chemistry, and medicine, along with beginner's magic, something called sympathy. The way sympathy works in a magical sense is that the mage must first think 2 contradictory thoughts simultaneously, like this coin will fall when I let go of it, and this coin will hang in the air when I let go. Once you've mastered that, you can chant a binding spell to connect 2 similar things, and what you do to one will happen to the other. The more similar they are, the better, because the conservation of energy is still in effect, and differences create inefficiencies. That's why it's called sympathy. The lessons go well at first, but then Kvothe thinks that he should try to name the wind, with naming being the advanced tier of magic. Kvothe simulates this by binding the air in his lungs, and he nearly suffocates as a result. Abinthy stops the sympathy training at this point, and not long afterwards, he leaves the troupe to marry a wealthy widow. Meanwhile, Kvothe's father has been trying to write a new song about an ancient and tragic hero named Lanry and the mysterious monsters called the Chandrian. But then, one day, the Chandrian show up in person and slaughter the entire troupe. Kvothe lives because he had wandered off at the time, and while they spot him when he returns, they have to leave before they can kill him. Kvothe learns some important details from this. Two sides of the Chandrian are Blue Flames and Decay. The group has a leader cloaked in permanent shadows named Haliax, and despite their power, the Chandrian have a list of enemies. Kvothe goes numb from grief at this point. At first living alone in the woods, and then living as a street urchin in the bad part of a city called Tarbeen. For 3 years, from ages 12 to 15, Kvothe lives on the streets. And while the boy's brain is shut down for this period, we, the audience, hear two important stories. First, we hear about Telu, a central figure in the setting's very Judeo-Christian religion. Telu, the creator god, took a mortal form to understand why wicked humans would be worth saving from the demons that tormented them. And as a mortal, he went around saving people and inducting them into his worship using a smithy hammer. He also cast out and smote the demons, with the most powerful and wicked demon being Incanus. Telu destroys Incanus, but he has to sacrifice his mortal form to do so. The second story is relayed by a mysterious storyteller at Kvothe's request. It's about Lanry, about how he and his wife were once the greatest defenders of an ancient empire. Lanry dies at one point, but his wife uses her magic to bring him back from the dead. Sadly, she herself dies later, and while Lanry studies magic to bring her back, he fails and falls into a deep nihilistic despair. He betrays the Empire in the hopes that another powerful wizard, Celatos, will kill him. But even Celatos can't do that thanks to the power of Lanry's wife. Instead, he curses Lanry by covering him in shadows and dooming him to never find peace. It takes Kvothe a bit to realize it, since his brain is still mostly shut down from grief, but he eventually realizes that Lanry and Haliax, Lord of the Chandrian, are one and the same. But thanks to this revelation, Kvothe's brain turns back on, and he realizes he's been wasting his life away. So he pawns the one valuable possession he has left, and buys passage to the university, the one and only place that teaches sympathy and naming magic. He impresses the masters enough to get a scholarship of 3 silver talents, the first person to ever get money from the university instead of paying out. But unfortunately, the money is only for 1 term, and 1 term at the university is 2 months. Kvothe quickly makes both friends and enemies at the university. His 2 best friends are Willem and Simon, and his 2 greatest enemies are Ambrose and Hema. Ambrose is the firstborn son of a wealthy baron and a bully who's used to getting what he wants, and so when Kvothe fights back, Ambrose takes it personally. Hema is the professor of basic sympathy and a different kind of bully, and so when he tries to humiliate Kvothe by having him run the class on the 2nd day, Kvothe takes it as a challenge and uses a double binding to burn Hema's leg. Doing this almost gets Kvothe expelled, since magical malfeasance is a serious offense. The Masters are very sensitive about using magic to harm people, since it wasn't that long ago that wizards were burned at the stake for performing any kind of magic. Still, Hema literally asked for it, and could have stopped Kvothe at any point, so his sentence is reduced to reckless use of magic, and a few public lashes. Kvothe takes a painkiller before the lashing so he won't feel the pain or bleed as much, but this later backfires. The drug's side effects slow Kvothe's brain, so he ends up paying Ambrose a talent for nothing and bringing an open flame into the archive. This gets him banned from the archive indefinitely, and kicks off the 2 students' rivalry. In the meantime, Kvothe needs to make some money, since he can't count on getting a negative tuition more than once. He can't get a loan since he has no collateral and no wealthy family, so he eventually has to go into debt with a surprisingly lovely loan shark. She still charges him 50% interest every 2 months, though. Kvoth also buys himself a second-hand lute and gets back into practice by playing in an abandoned campus courtyard. And that's how he meets Ori, a woman who went crazy trying to use naming magic and who now lives in the university's underworks. Once he decides he's back up to his old standards, Kvoth goes to the Aeolian Tavern in Imre, a town on the other side of the river from the university where nobles support artists of all kinds. If you can make it in the Aeolian, you can make it anywhere. And so Kvoth goes there and plays a famously difficult ballad. He pulls it off spectacularly, even though Ambrose was in the audience and cut one of the lute strings, and Kvoth needed a woman in the audience to sing the counterpart. The person who sang with him turns out to be Denna, a girl of about Kvoth's age whom he first met in the caravan to the university. Denna is the love interest of the story, but she keeps wandering off, since she's a penniless woman who can only really support herself by going on dates with different men and selling the gifts they shower her with. As for Kvoth's finances, they're looking up after he proves himself in the Aeolian, but Ambrose makes a point of sabotaging his attempts to get a noble patron or work at any inn that caters to nobles. Finally, we start to see some hints of the hero Kvoth will become. One day in the artificery, a dangerous compound shatters its container and starts a massive fire, and Kvoth saves a fellow student's life. Later, 2 ruffians, most likely working for Ambrose, corner him in an alley, either to rough him up or to kill him, and he uses sympathy magic to call fire and lightning and get away. The last part of the book starts when Kvoth overhears someone talking about a wedding party where everyone was slaughtered and blue flames were seen by the sole survivor. Kvoth drops everything and races north to investigate, getting a remarkably good horse for the trip, but then trading it to a tinker for a rare magnetic lodestone. In town, he discovers the survivor is Denna, of all people, and she agrees to investigate the remains of the wedding party with him. The two discover evidence that the Chandrian were responsible for the attack, but then they get sidetracked when they encounter a Dracus, a giant lizard with metallic scales that breathes fire, but is not an actual dragon. It eats trees, not cows, and this Dracus happened upon a hidden grove where criminals made resin, a kind of drug that's very similar to opium, except that it comes from refining tree sap. The Dracus has become addicted to the drug from eating the trees, and since it destroyed the camp, Kvoth decides it's too dangerous to leave alone. He and Denna gather all the processed resin and use it to try and poison the Dracus, but it ends up rampaging through a nearby town instead, and Kvoth ends up killing it by crushing it with a massive iron holy symbol. When Kvoth wakes up the next morning, he finds out that the townsfolk now consider him a holy man and a hero for what he did. He uses this reputation to gather information about the Chandrian attack, and he finds out that the cause is likely a large bowl with certain images on it that the father of the bride dug up from an ancient ruin. He fails to learn any more, however. After Kvoth gets back to the university, Ambrose taunts him again by grabbing his lute, which deeply upsets him, especially when Ambrose tosses it back and the lute smashes on the pavement. Kvoth is so angry that he calls the name of the wind, and he's completely out of it until the Master of Naming uses his magic to settle Kvoth's mind. He and Ambrose then go before the Masters, and Kvoth gets promoted instead of expelled, because a person's first naming is usually a traumatic experience. He does get a few more lashes, but then he also gets the Masters to fine Ambrose twice for stealing and then breaking his lute. Kvoth then gets Ori to help him find a secret way into the archives, and that is where the story within the story ends. Meanwhile, there are a few interludes with the present-day story. Chronicler discovers that Kvoth's assistant Bast is a fey creature, and while they attack each other since Chronicler is a Telu-fearing wizard, Kvoth convinces them to shake hands and make up. Near the end of the night, one of the deserters who attacked Chronicler shows up at the tavern, but he's obviously possessed, and he only dies when the smith's apprentice smashes his head in with a cold iron rod. What possessed him was an evil fey creature, something that Telu worshippers regularly mistake for demons. Finally, as Chronicler goes to bed, Bast appears to him and says that he's the reason that Chronicler even heard rumors about Kvoth's location. Bast wants Kvoth to remember the hero he used to be, so that he'll stop being the sad husk of a man that he's become. Bast then makes it clear that this will be Chronicler's goal, whether he likes it or not. And so, day 1 of the story ends. The analysis. Well, wouldn't you know it, we're back to the old buildings, Roman. This one's a little more complicated than Spirited Away, though, and a fair part of that comes from the fact that this is a 700-page novel and not a 2-hour movie. A lot more happens in a big book like this one. First of all, let me just say that it's very clear that this book is part of a larger whole. The present-day plotline teases a lot of stuff that never comes up in the memoir, like the spider demons, the true nature of the possession creatures, the existence of the Fae, and the fact that Kvoth has apparently killed a king and started a war. We also hear several times that Kvoth gets expelled from the university, and that Ambrose is responsible, but as of the end of this book, he's still a member. Still, you get the sense as you read the book that the author knows what he's doing. This isn't just some random hints he's peppering through the novel to make it seem more interesting. He clearly has a plan for what happens next, and the only problem is that the book ends before he reaches it. That brings me to my next topic, world building. Patrick Rothfuss is using the fairly grounded technique of just like the real world, but just like the real world, a large number of the citizens follow a Christ-like figure who saves his followers and dies to protect them from demons who represent sin. But Telu is much less of a pacifist than Jesus and isn't really an all-loving god. Just like the real world, 2 of the main types of magic are sympathy, where like affects like, and naming, where you can command something or someone if you know its true name. But in this case, magic actually works and isn't just a dysfunctional outgrowth of scientific curiosity. The Name of the Wind is a story about the setting as much as it is a story about the protagonist, which is why it grinds to a halt twice in the middle of the book to tell stories within stories about the history of the world. Stories that contradict each other, and yet carry a few common elements that let you know that both have at least a kernel of truth and originally sprang from the same source. I could tell when I was reading that Rothfuss must enjoy studying history at least as much as I do, because I know exactly which topics he must have studied to come up with such a compelling alternate world. Something else I appreciate about the book is that it offers a wide range of characters with their own motivations and personalities. For example, while Kvoth is a street urchin, he decides to go begging in the good part of town on a holy day, when people would be feeling charitable. A woman takes pity on him and gives him a silver talent, a ton of money from his perspective, but then he loses it when a town guardsman kicks the shit out of him for leaving the terrible part of town. Then, when he's about to pass out from the injuries and the cold, a man wearing a devil mask helps him up and gives him some money and his gloves. There's also a former priest who cares for orphans who can't care for themselves, and he hands out all the bread and clean water he can spare. Kvoth himself is pretty far from being a high fantasy hero. He makes mistakes, he carries grudges, he comes up with plans that backfire on him as often as not. He acts like a stupid kid who thinks he knows more than he really does, because that's exactly what he is. He's got a lot of potential, and he knows a lot about science, music, and acting, but there are some things you can only really learn from direct experience, and that's exactly what happens throughout the book. I won't say this makes The Name of the Wind unique, because I've read a lot of other fantasy books with realistic characters, but if you can find the time to read this tome and its sequels, I'd certainly recommend you do so. Thanks for joining me again for today's book review, and I hope I'll see you next time for a tale about vampires on the moon.